New year, no more beard, but a mustache. Picking right back up where we left off last time. You didn't see, the engine is in and bolted up, transmission and everything, that's all ready and good to go. That was the final installation of the engine before painting the bay. Everything's good, everything fits perfectly. CS Racing headers fit in there phenomenally. The new Pennsyltucky performance motor mounts are perfect, along with the transmission mount. I even think I'm gonna be able to sneak the ABS pump in where it was with just a little bit of a modification. Stay tuned for that. Now I did make a little shopping spree at Harbor Freight, so I gotta clean all that up. I went there for a load leveler, which I got, to help with this engine installation. And while I was there, I got a bunch of other stuff that I needed. So let me clean that up. We're gonna start pulling this engine and tranny back out for the final time.
2 hours later.
Got that cleaned up a little bit. Got this cleaned up a little bit as well. That's all the bolts and just stuff from taking this engine out. I honestly can't wait to get this at least running and driving so I can just clean up this whole garage, because I hate having a messy garage, and having this constantly in and out and moving around is making that very difficult. But with that being said, yeah, let's hook up the new engine adjuster to the engine and get it ready to pull back out. Every time. Should be loose and free. Let's see if we can jack it up. This way. Come with me, little man. Now that the engine is out, sitting there's a couple things I need to get done. For one, I need the bolts that go from the T56 to the bellow housing to come in. They're not in yet. They're still on order. So that's just gonna sit there until they're in so I can install them. Also, I ordered this bleeder line. It doesn't have to be nearly this long, and I didn't know that the Chase base kit came with a bleeder line, which is right here. So I'm gonna install this as well, because that being so long is just unnecessary. Don't need it to be that long. Then, also got the low car throttle cable bracket. I also got the low car throttle cable. So let me just install this quick as well. As you can see here, this LS1 didn't come with any type of throttle bracket. We're gonna need that. And I got it in black so it matches the throttle plate. And then that should line up directly with this 102mm throttle body. That's good to go. Now on to the next not so fun, kind of scary part, because I've never done it before. Seam sealer in the engine bay. Have to do that so it's ready for more coats of primer before the final coat of Hellerot Red. So I just got this Dynatron Seam Sealer Gray from Advanced Auto. I watched a bunch of videos on how to apply this so it doesn't look like total crap, and I think I have a good idea of how I'm going to do it. It involves some tape. So the plan is to use the tape to kind of mark out exactly where the seam sealer is going to go, and then when I remove the tape, the seam sealer will be on there, have a nice clean edge that hopefully won't look like crap. About the same amount of gap all along. About 2 hours later, and we are all taped up. Boy, that was a lot of work. That took longer than expected, but it's gonna make the seam sealer look better, much nicer than OEM. So really, there's nothing further to do rather than to start applying it. So here goes nothing. I'm going to start with the areas that you're not going to see as much because, for testing purposes. Just working it in here with my finger. And then I'll try to smooth it out, I think, close to the end with my finger. I am pretty happy with that, I believe. Now before it gets too dry, I think I need to pull all that tape off there and we'll really see sort of the finished product before paint. Well, that was a pain, but it looks pretty good. Now I still have to do a little bit of like touching up here and there and smooth out some lumps and whatnot, but I'm pretty happy with that. It looks like sort of a factory job from BMW, but better. Because you guys know, like that's the factory from BMW. They just like, it looks like, you know, it's been brushed on everywhere. Well, here this looks a little more clean. The area is a lot smaller, but it's still sealed. I'm gonna let that dry and see how it looks like when it is fully cured and dry. We'll move on to the next phase. Now I'm gonna work on the shifter bushing assembly area because the shifter cup has to come out because it is for a GTO, and that's obviously not an F-body, so I need an F-body shifter cup. I'm gonna drive this pin out, and then I'll probably take the transmission back off the bell housing. Pretty easy. This little pin down here, put the brass bushing in the new one whenever I get it. Set her down there for a second. Gonna replace the bleeder line while I'm at it, as previously discussed. Don't need this super long one. I mean, you can see the difference. Plus they're both black, so they match, and that makes me happy. Back in we go. Maybe that goes somewhere. I don't know, figure that out later. But those lines match now, so it looks a little nicer. On to the next thing to deal with when putting an LS motor in an E36 is, of course, the ABS pump. And here it is, and it's pretty simple how it mounts. It just has two rubber bushings here and a rubber bushing in the front with a bolt. I'm sure you guys know how it mounts. It sits right in here, like so. Now, if you look at it, there is room to shift it to the right. And a lot of kits, you can move it, put it all the way up here, get it out of the way. Of course, you get it away from the headers and everything, and it's make sure there's not a bunch of heat and it fits and all that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I think having the ABS pump up here in the front is horrendously ugly. And not that this is a show car by any means. I still want it to look decent, so we're gonna leave it in the factory location, but shift it over a little bit, and I already have a way in mind of doing that without modifying the car mounts at all. Now, one thing that is in the way is this big connector and how it's mounted. This doesn't need to be mounted there. There's really, you don't need this, so this mount's going bye-bye. So this is still gonna plug in just how it was, but this bracket is going bye-bye. Should just twist, there we go. Should just twist off there. I don't think this has been done before that I've seen. These rubber boys, they just push on to these sort of hex nut looking things. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take flat bar stock, just like this. We're gonna bolt it into the factory location, and then we're going to shift these over, just like that, which will move the ABS pump to the one side without issue. What's nice about this is this will be able to be transferred to, let's say I need a new pump or something like that. Nothing here is permanent. It's gonna be clean looking. I'll do the same thing in the front. So let me find out what thread this is and get some nuts and bolts that match. I should have something here that'll fit. Ooh, I bet you this is it right here. Perfect. 1, 2, 3 of those. Drill some holes in this. There's that. It's gonna be nice and solid. Now I want to see how far I can actually move it over in the bay. I'd say I got about an inch. And now these just get a simple nut on the back to hold them on. And there is space for the nut because of that nice little gap right there. You kind of see where we're going with this. And then these boys will just go right back on there. There's that. So that's just going to offset it to the right, give me a little bit more room. You'd never even know. Now, you have to do the front. Over about the same, like an inch. That is an offset ABS pump. See how it fits. Sweet. Dudes, I am pretty pumped about that. Can't really tell unless you know what you're looking for. And you can see, now I ended up turning this top one. I angled it a little bit more just to get me a little more up and a little less over. And you can see the clearance is close, right there, right there. But it's not touching. And this can still maintain where it was, just I don't need that bracket on there. You can definitely tell here, you know, how we shifted over about an inch. But what's nice is I'm still gonna be able to use all these factory fittings, I believe. I don't think I'll have to redo any of the fittings. I think they'll fit just fine. As far as I'm concerned, this is gonna work perfectly. Not to mention the fact that when I had the engine in, I test fitted this and it did fit. It was super, super close, but it did fit. So now all I did was just gained a little bit more clearance away from the headers and the heat. Happy with that solution. The next night, got some more parts in that we're gonna try to install today. I have the Lockout 1000 throttle cable, and then I also got the correct slave cylinder, clutch pedal master, whatever you want to call it. Make sure that this disconnects with the cable that I already installed, which I'm sure it will. So that should just go in there. Oh, yeah, that'll work. I don't want to lock it in fully, but yeah, that looks correct. So let me do this first. Kind of wish the seat wasn't in here, but let's get into position. I don't even remember how this goes. I don't know. I don't remember. This sucks. I think I need longer bolts. Change of plans. Can't install this quite yet because I need longer bolts. So you see here how much thicker the newer one is versus the old one. See that difference there? Stock bolts, not long enough. So I'm going to move on to the throttle cable and see what I can figure out with that. There we go. Couldn't get that dumb clip thing out of there. Now I see why. But there's no way to get up in there and really grab a hold of that. Old throttle cable is out of there. Gotta do a little sanding on that so we can primer that up too. In here, I'll do my best to show you guys. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. All right, there it is. Yeah, you should be able to see that. There it is, installed. I used a bolt and a double nut because there was no way I was gonna get that pin on there with the little clips on the end. Let me know if this is gonna be a problem. I don't think it will, because since I double nutted it, this can still move. So it's not super tight on there, so I'll have, you know, no problems with that. And then the cable is just chilling here for now. The cable is gonna remain in the car until I paint the engine bay, then I'll route it out the hole, and eventually we'll come up here to the throttle body and low car mount. Here's the other end, so that's gonna sit in there. Then these pieces here, this is what will be connected at the firewall to hold it in place. And then this whole black piece can also be trimmed down, because right now, let's say the firewall is going to be about there. You can see it's too long. Throttle cable installed. Wasn't hard at all. Pretty much bolts right up. I'd like to get this piece off because this is what will cover up that hole in the engine bay. So I got to figure out how to get that off without really breaking it. Well, that kind of works. All I have to do is get this out of here and I can run the new cable through it. That should work. We're going to cut that off and then that'll sit in there like so, and I can put a big washer. I'm going to draw out this hole so the new bolt and nut will fit through there. So this will slide through there. This will slide through the firewall. This screws on the back. Pretend this is going into the firewall, and this is exactly what you'll see. It'll look pretty much like factory. I'll end up repainting this piece, this plastic piece black because there's primer on there. I actually sanded the gray off there, so now it's back to the black-ish color. couple more parts for the T56 came in that I needed to delete some of the things on there. I also got the shifter cup brass bushing. The actual cup and short shifter haven't come in yet, but they'll be here soon, I hope. But I did get the kit from Sikky, the reverse lockout and skip shift delete kit. And then I also have the speed sensor plug from ICT Billet. So I'm just gonna throw these pieces in real quick. That just fits right in there. Oh yeah, that's a nice fit. Get a socket that's the same size. They also recommend you put a little gasket maker or RTV on the inside of this just to make sure you're not getting crap up in there. That should be plenty. Cool, happy with that. They say just to set it in, don't set it flush, actually make it sit in just a hair. So that's got that hole covered. And from the back side, easy peasy, on to the next thing. I'll put the skip shift eliminator in there with just a little gasket it comes with. And that's just gonna thread right in. Nice fitment of that. That's all done. Both those are done. And last, the speed sensor plug. I like simple. For good measure, I'm just gonna put a dab of Loctite on this. Don't want that backing out. And done. 1, 2, 3 pieces. Excellent fitment. Works perfectly as intended. And those pieces were, generally speaking, pretty cheap. And I got them fast, so I'll link everything in the description. Final update for this video, guys. Got the rest of the parts in for the transmission that I needed. I don't think I told you guys, I did get the MGW shifter up in the 12 o'clock position here. Seems like a very, very high quality piece. Glad I went with that. This is the old GTO shift cup. Had the new F-body shift cup with the brass bushing I'm gonna put in there. There's all the rest of the parts that came with the MGW shifter. Didn't get a knob yet. You guys have an idea for the knob for this MGW shifter, let me know, because I'm undecided on what I want. And then I got the backup light switch and wiring harness. So I'm gonna throw the rest of these parts in, and then the transmission will be fully finished and ready to go in the car other than fluid. Now we do have a bit of a mess here, and you can probably figure out why. I'll give you a little preview of the next video. We'll just come right over here, whoop. Yeah, that was probably enough. I will say the clearance, the tolerances of this brass bushing seem to be about spot on for this piece. I was a little worried because you never really know. Should just pop out. Pop the new one in. And then I need to get the old pin out of here to go in there. Easy enough. Finally, backup switch. It already comes with thread tape. I think for the time being, I'll end up leaving the wiring off just so it doesn't have an interference when I'm loading it up in the car. Okay, so we have all our quote-unquote holes plugged in the T56. There, the other side. One more thing, and that's the new bolts to mount the tranny to the bell housing. Pretty nice little kit. Little bit of Loctite. Run them in and done. Alright, all the bolts are in. Bell housing to block bolts and bell housing to transmission bolts. All new, all Loctited in. Torque to spec. That's that, boys. If you have suggestions about transmission fluid, leave a comment, because I don't know, I haven't even looked it up yet what you guys suggest. I want to put that in before I drop the transmission in, I think. I don't think it'll spill out. Let me know. Next video, you already know what's going down. It's right over there. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. Very happy with how the end of the next video turns out. Either way, guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.